you go to Google and type in online learning of martial arts, you will see a whole slew of online martial arts schools, often connected to brick and mortar martial arts schools that promise you to get your first black belt in 12 months through online learning. Now, the online learning like that is something that we don't support in Taka, Budo, Dokokai. Most of those schools, they provide video instruction, so you watch a video and you follow along, and then you hope that you do it correct. The problem there is that for those types of courses, you really don't get enough feedback, and it is the feedback that is essential in any learning process. Online learning in our school is different than what you find on many other websites on the internet. We use a system called blended learning, and blended learning is unique because it combines the traditional method of instruction, which is in person, to the online method of instruction, and in this case that is also in person. So the only difference there between the traditional learning and the online learning is that the instructor is not physically present with the student. So online learning by itself doesn't have to be a bad thing as long as the instructor is knowledgeable of how to teach online. If I look at traditional education these days, it is more and more shifting from the classroom to the online world, and in fact most of the top universities in the world these days use blended learning methods to help their students progress, and in fact many of those students would otherwise not have the opportunity to attend some of those universities. In our martial arts school, when we use blended learning, we require the same in-depth study as we do of our regular students. There are no shortcuts. We don't provide an accelerated black belt course. All of that is nonsense. You see, martial arts studying Budo is not only about techniques, it is also about the training of the physical being and the spiritual being. And to become really proficient in Budo, you have to study more than just, once a week, show up to a school and do a few techniques and then come back the next week. There's one aspect in Budo that is essential, and it separates the people from being always beginners to becoming very proficient, and that is a mindfulness activity. The blended learning approach in Taka, Budo, Dokokai was created by myself because it is something that I miss in my own learning. When I go to Japan once or twice a year, I have fantastic keiko training opportunities with my teachers. However, there's always this gap in between visits to Japan, and although I can ask the questions my teachers or some of the other students, I would have liked to get maybe a little bit closer of a review, so that someone from the other side of the world takes a look at how I perform my techniques. But unfortunately, that's something that I haven't been able to do myself. So if you look at Canada, which is a large country, and the distances there to travel to your dojo if you live outside of the larger cities, that's often not easy to do. If I look at my own students, I have students in Manitoba and in Prince Edward Island and in Toronto. They don't have opportunities to visit our dojo in northern Saskatchewan that often. So the blended learning approach there really helps these students progress through their skills, because yes, they train by themselves and some of them have training partners, but once in a while, once or twice a month, we connect online together, and I watch them perform their techniques, and that's where they get feedback, mostly positive feedback, so that they can further grow in their studies. Now, if you're looking for a fast way to get your black belt, then you really have to go somewhere else, because that's not our philosophy here. In fact, we are against any martial arts school providing such a certificate to people within 12 months. It doesn't make sense. It's not what Budo is about. Budo is also about developing your mindset and understanding that martial art is much more about showing a few techniques here and there. So therefore, the blended learning opportunity is not for everyone. In fact, my own experience is that the majority of people who start blended learning actually drop off because they do not have the self-discipline to continue their studies like this. So if you are a person who is dedicated to learning Budo and someone who doesn't mind being online and using a good quality webcam to train together and to talk about Budo and the mindset and mindfulness, then you may be a good candidate to use our blended model. Now, the blended model by itself, as I said earlier, combines traditional teaching with online teaching, so there's still that mandatory component of receiving your in-person training here in our school. However, some of our students, although sometimes they travel, other times I travel to them and for 1 or 2 days. So, that's how we sort of balance the difficulties that we have here in Canada with the long distances of travel.